Okay. All right. So, recapping the story of Marie Louise Barrow, correct? Mary Louise Barrow. But you said that her mother's name was Mary Louise Anastasia, yes? And grandma's name was Mary Louise.
She did not have a
Third name. She didn't have a third name.
And also, it may have been Elizabeth. May have been Elizabeth. My memory is.
And her father's name was Louis
Marie.
Louis Marie. So they came from. So where did your grandmother and grandfather meet? Did they meet in the United States or did they meet in France?
They met in France.
And then they came over to the United States.
Not together.
Not together.
It was a long courtship.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
And so they got. You're not sure the details of that, but they got married in the United States?
In Boston.
In Boston. Okay. And they had, Jacques was the first son, and he passed away. Was he a baby when he passed away?
I think it was, in the process of birth.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay. And then when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, she said what did your grandfather say? I mean, yeah, what did your grandfather say? Grandpapa, what did he say?
My firstborn could not make it in America. We're going back to France.
Where the rest of their kids were born, right? Were the rest of them all born
Mom,
there?
Just the eldest.
Just your mom?
Yeah, just the eldest.
Just the oldest.
When they came back.
And then they came back. And then she had another daughter and two more sons. Not in that order, though, right? It was
Al, a boy.
Al,
a girl,
Suzanne, and Paul, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Al, Suzanne, and Paul. And then they went back to. So they still lived in Boston. All those kids were born. And then they went back to France again. Where your mother. So your mom was 6, and she moved back to France. And they lived there for 6 years till your mother was 12.
Right.
And then they came to Hoboken. Now, why didn't he go back to Boston?
Great-grandpa?
Yeah.
He went back to Boston, and then it was a matter of a work crisis.
Okay.
So they moved to New Jersey.
And so Grandma was 12.
Why New Jersey? Don't answer that.
Don't answer that. And they went to New Jersey, and Grandma had to go into the first grade at 12 years old, first or second grade at 12 years old, because she didn't know English well enough, because she was fluent in French. And by the time she graduated high school, what grade was she when she graduated and had to say that poem?
It was an 8-year school, St. School up and running. It's a Dominican. The Passionist fathers were the custodians of the church there, St. Joseph's. And then the Dominicans were the teaching order.
Okay.
So then it was decided by her parents to go on to the Dominican secretarial school.
Okay.
And Uncle Al went to the what would be 2 years of high school they completed.
Okay. So, what was the poem she had to read at her 8th grade graduation?
Evangeline.
Do you know any of it?
Pines of the brooding forest. No, that's not it, is it? Pines of the brooding forest, lift your arms in prayer. No, that's not it. I knew it. I knew some of it.
You'll
Marie.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generations. No, I'm not going to get political.
So anyway, then she went to secretary school. Now didn't you live in France till like you were 5 or something? Like you were born here and then went over to France until you were. How old were you when you moved back over here? Because you knew French was your first language too.
Time out. Inhale. Blow it out.
Okay, go ahead.
Mom and myself. Mommy was married in 1928. Mom and Dad were married in 28. And there's a great lapse of years, actually. It seems like a great lapse. Might have been 20 years between the time Mom and Daddy got married in 28. Okay. Kath was born in 28. I was born in 31. Now again, when we have an intervening, what they called the Great War, and meanwhile the family had moved from Hoboken to New York again. A family decision, and so that's where Mom and Dad met. They lived on the same street.
Okay.
And then when Dad, again, after the war, he went back to complete his education. He had started in Fordham, which was the Jesuit college. And then there's more a little political aside, but I'm going to avoid politics. You can turn on the local TV station. Not that I'm not saying to vote. Vote, by all means. So anyway, when Mommy and Daddy married in Our Lady Queen of Peace Church in New Dorp, Staten Island, they shortly thereafter gave birth to Kath.
Right.
And then I came along 2 years later. And meanwhile, Kath had made a lot of progress. You know, she was 2 years old. That's a very good age, you know, for education. Plug for education. Oh, I'm not going to get political. Divorce is a good divorce, D-E-V-O-S.
Anyway. So you went to...
So then Kathleen, before I was born, Dad had been, as a veteran, decorated. He, I don't know between working and veteran, he went to the University of Pennsylvania and finished a professional certificate as a dentist. Mom was doing secretarial work, and they were working. Aunt Sue and Mom were working in Manhattan. In Manhattan in those days, so you can imagine the trek, the commute. Well, I'm not going to lapse into Italian, although I do love the Italian language. They, being neighbors, Dad then opened his practice, his dental practice after the war. He came back with the assistance of the grace of God and their mother's prayers. That was the expression. Grace of God and my mother's prayers. So anyway, Aunt Sue and Mom, they lived up, you know where they lived, on Greeley Avenue. They lived up.
I don't know if I knew where they lived.
I think we had a history walk one day.
I don't know.
Well, that's it. You can look it up.
Greeley
It's
Avenue?
probably on pictures.
On Google or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Well,
and-
you're talking about like in Grant City area, right?
Yeah.
Greeley isn't in Midland Beach. It's a little further
in
in.
fact, I told Bill.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that equipment?
Anyway, so I want to get back on track. They went to
Marie, if you're hungry,
You're
there
hungry,
is that chicken next door.